supplementary budgets. I have chosen this subject because just today, as we close the, as we are adjourning Synedia, Parliament is expected to approve the second supplementary budget for 2024. Before I do that, just allow me to remind the UPND government that the Zambian people are suffering. The Zambian youths remain unemployed. Because of unemployment, because of the harsh economic conditions that the Zambians have been subjected to, it is important for the UPND government to change course and begin to focus on leadership activities which would improve the economic conditions for the suffering majority Zambians. It will be important for UPND to begin to move in a direction which is going to create jobs for the Zambian youths. The UPND should stop pretending the cost of living is very high. It is very expensive to live in Zambia right now, particularly for those who are unemployed and those whose employment gives them very little money. At a time when the cost of living is this high, it is careless for scandals to continue to show. It is careless for government to continue to demonstrate that they are a government of scandals. What is even worse is that leadership does not seem to care. It doesn't matter how many scandals will be exposed, those who are involved will continue operating as normal. Not too long ago, we heard about 61 containers of medicine which were diverted. 61 containers of medicine for the people, diverted into a private location, and nobody has been sanctioned. We have heard of no minister, we have heard of no PS sanctioned, we've heard of no senior government official sanctioned. It demonstrates that the UPND government generally is okay with these activities. I think in the past week we've heard about the $6.8 million worth of a scandal, where a PS, it is alleged that a PS offered himself a contract. Now, how do you even start to offer yourself a contract? How? This and nothing has happened to that PS up to today as we speak. Is this the reason why another PS could, could procure a service to a tune of 3.6 million kwacha without a tender process, without sending, that procurement to the procurement department? A PS alone procures, whether it is his friends or whatever, 3.6 million kwacha. Nothing has happened to that person. The same way, nothing has happened to those who procured $13 million worth of ambulances from a pharmaceutical company. So I want to say that UPND, stop corruption. Corruption is actually causing a lot of pain to the Zambian people. It's causing pain. Once you do that, start focusing on building the lives of the Zambian people by channeling these amounts dedicated to corruption, channel them to services that will help the Zambian people come out of their current suffering. It may help. It may help even for you to build your image as a UPND government, even in the eyes of the donor community. I think that it doesn't do that even after the donors have started suspending donor support, we still have a situation where scandals are escalating. This should come to an end. Think specifically about how you can reduce the cost of fuel. Think specifically about how you can reduce the cost of meal. Specifically about how you can create jobs, how the cost of electricity can reduce and its availability assured. These are the issues that should, consume your time, instead of promulgating bills in order to withdraw them, because they are so bad, they encompass despotic thinking. I propose that time now has come for UPND government to start thinking about the Zambian people. You lost a lot of time at Ministry of Justice, creating the cyber crimes bill and the cyber security bill. You wasted cabinet time. You wasted the National Assembly's time. You wasted resources at government printers. All of that put together, it can be a saving sufficient enough to be channeled towards productive, service to the Zambian people. I encourage you, the UPND government, its leadership, stop this habit of wasting taxpayers' money when you know those same taxpayers are suffering immensely. Let me comment on my substantive issue, which is the supplementary budget. As I said this afternoon, it is expected that a supplementary budget of 11.8 billion kwacha is going to go through so that the Minister of Finance can spend this money in the remaining 3 weeks of the year. I want to remind you that for 2024, which is coming to an end in 3 weeks' time, UPND government planned to spend 177 billion. A few months ago, they came back to the House and said the 177 billion was not enough. We want to spend another 41.9 billion. That was supplementary budget number 1. And the Assembly granted the UPND. 3 weeks before the end of the year, UPND government has come back to the House to say the 177 plus 41.9 billion are not enough. Please give us another 11.8 billion. So that is under approval now. And today I was stopped, from project some of the thoughts I had on this issue. Do you know where UPND government is getting some of the money as revenue for these 2 supplementary budgets? They have created savings from the 177 billion. In the first supplementary budget of 41.9, they had created savings of 17 billion kwacha. In this current one, the 11.8 billion, they have created savings for 8 billion kwacha. My question to UPND is, your budget was 177. You created 2 savings, 17 billion and 8 billion. That makes a total of 25 billion kwacha. How can you have programs which you planned to do to a tune of 25 billion kwacha and you fail to do those programs and you are still calling yourself a meticulous government? I think you are a poor government when it comes to planning. I think you actually don't know what you talk about. How can you fail to execute programs worth 25 billion and still say you are a meticulous government? Still say you are methodical? Still say your budget is credible? How? It is impossible for you to keep talking like that, and I want to encourage you. Last time I was encouraging UPND, stop using some of these words which you don't even know what they mean. Being meticulous means being careful, having a properly considering all factors before you can come to pronounce an issue. You pronounced 177 billion. And no one argued. We all said, let's give them. We gave you 177. You came back, 41.9. You are back again 3 weeks before the end of the year. You give us another 11.8 billion. What type of being meticulous is that. So I want to encourage you, PND, be sincere. You are poor at planning, you are poor at forecasting, you are poor at execution. Because if you were good even in one of these aspects, today you can't be saying 25 billion worth of activities can't be done. If you were good at executing, activities. You should have been able to execute all these activities, but you failed. And then you collect that money and come and take it to debt, to dismantling of debt and the payment of arrears. You should also update the nation how far your illegal audits have gone, so that we can now go back to those people who you said you will not pay until the audits are done. You can't keep doing audits for 3 years. For the fact that those are illegal audits, okay, that's another thing, but also you can't keep people waiting for their money saying you are doing audits. So in this dismantling of arrears, have you also included those people who, at the start of your leadership, you had said you will not pay until you audit? You pronounced that to the people. So the people have been waiting. What is the outcome of those audits? Were those services tendered to government? And if they were, when are you going to pay the people? Because their workers have lost jobs. They are in the bracket of the main Zambians who are suffering now. So clearly, UPND, it is important for you now to wear a demeanor of decency. It is important for you now to start considering yourselves as average and aware people. And go to those who know, find out how to do things so that you build your image. Otherwise, by the time your term is coming to an end in 2026, you will have plunged this country into serious chaos. I wish to encourage you to come back to earth, to come back to Zambia, and realize that the country is really suffering. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Dr. Kafaya. I heard Honorable actually his very candid presentation. He felt the UPND as half aware. Honorable, I know, he's been to the diplomatic school and he's a former minister, a diplomat. But the position that the UPND are actually politically impotent, politically illiterate, but that's not even a bigger problem. The biggest problem is the illiterates who are not willing to learn. And indeed, we thank you for that presentation. It's quite elaborate. He has gone through the scandals. And let's not bury these issues. These are issues Zambians need to know. Where their money is now going to, for the first time in the history of Zambia, ambulances are being manufactured in garden compound. So I think that these issues should not go to sleep. PSCs, for the very first time, PSCs, I've never had even $1 million going to pay. Now $6.8 million for that matter. So we have a myriad of scandals, and we thank you. Indeed, for a government that is prudent, clearly we could not have had 3 budgets presented in 1 year. That is a sign. That is a sign of lack of planning, and also these are political novices, so to speak. At this point in time, just allow me to call upon Honorable Robert Kapyanga just to deal with issues in the economy, the cost of living, us failing, to get even the basic needs of ourselves. Honorable Kapyanga.
Thank you so much. Let me begin by recognizing the presence of our legitimate leader of opposition, Honorable Brian Munduvile, Honorable Brenda Nyirenda, our Deputy Secretary General, Honorable Kafaya, our Senior MP, and indeed my colleague, Honorable Tembo. To begin with, I think the Zambian people do not need more evidence to know that actually the UPND is a PR government. They would rather focus on PR than the welfare of our people. When it matters the most for the poor people, UPND won't pay attention. Bring the rich people here, bring white people here, they will pay much attention to that. I'm very concerned as a member of parliament for the people of Mpika constituents, which is predominantly rural, and where our people are in abject poverty. When I hear the Vice President of the Republic claiming that actually our government has delivered, and claiming that there is no one in Zambia who is suffering, those who are claiming that people are suffering are just bitter PF people who do not accept that the fact that they lost elections in 2021. That is very worrisome and very disappointing at the same time, especially coming from the Republican Vice President. The Central Statistical Office has released statistics. 54% of our people are living in abject poverty. Inflation rate has gone up to 15.4%. The unemployment rate has also going up. The exchange rate, the kwacha against the dollar, is at 28 kwacha. This means that those who are importing things have to spend a lot of kwacha for them to import what they want to import. Not only that, the food basket has also gone up. You need about 10,400 kwacha for a family of 4 to live up to a month. That is unprecedented. I mean, it has never happened before. It is only happening under the PR government of the UPND. I have to appeal to the President that anything that he is going to do beyond January 2025 will be deemed 100% political and butter smearing on the Zambian people's faces. Here now is the time for the President to put back subsidies on fuel, subsidies on fertilizer, subsidies on meal meal, subsidies on essential commodities. Now, they cannot claim not to have the money when the money for plundering is available. Money to put subsidies on essential commodities is not there. The Financial Intelligence Center report of 2024 reveals that actually from January to April 2024, 3.1 billion US dollars was fraudulently externalized. That is a huge amount of money. And these are people who have been dancing before the International Monetary Fund, asking for 1.3 billion. Here, we have a report of 3.1 billion US dollars being externalized. In 2023, they had externalized 13.5 billion kwacha. The Auditor General's report of 2023 has revealed that actually 259 mining companies did not file mineral royalty declarations. But the same companies exported minerals worth 14 billion kwacha. So these things are happening because the UPND government has created an environment for corruption. If this thing is, if money for corruption is there, then why is the money for subsidies is not there? They want to enrich themselves whilst the poor remain poorer and poorer. We say no to that, and we ask the UPND government that before you leave in 2026, at least do something that the Zambian people will honorably remember you for. You cannot enter shamelessly and leave shamelessly. Do something that the Zambian people will remember you for. At least fulfill even a few of your campaign promises. You promised the Zambian people a bag of meal will be costing 50 kwacha. You promised the Zambian people a liter of fuel will be costing somewhere around 9 kwacha. You promised the Zambian people that a bag of fertilizer will be costing 250 kwacha. You promised the Zambian people that FISIP, actually under FISIP, a farmer will be getting 12 bags of fertilizer. To the contrary, a farmer today, I have a video with me right now, where farmers in Lavushi Manda, which is the neighboring district to Mpika, were sharing one bag of fertilizer. 12 people were sharing that bag in smaller units. What will they do with those, that kind of farming inputs? Literally nothing. Apart from occasioning serious suffering on the Zambian people, the UPND government has even decided to become more dictatorial than what the Zambian people rejected them for 6 times when they were in opposition. We call on them to say, please, for God's sake, do something that the Zambian people will remember you for when you exit in 2021. I know they have argued and said they are not going anywhere. And because of the money and the sweetness of their seats, they have become very arrogant. And they are even saying they will rule forever. Let me remind them that we had KK, UNIP. UNIP was the only political party registered in Zambia at that particular time. Elections were supposed to be held in 1993. But the Zambian people, using their power, decided to remove KK from power using a political party that they created within days, and that political party wrestled power from the once mighty UNIP. UPND is as finished as BlackBerry phone. So why do they think they will not be removed? I mean, they will be removed as easy as it is. Let me remind them that the power belongs to the Zambian people. It's the Zambian people that give the power. And when they give you the power, they have a list of the things that they want you to do as you promise them. Failure to which they have to remove you from power and give the next competent guy to take the mantle of our country leadership forward. Before the UPND government leaves, please put subsidies on fuel so that you reduce the cost of living. Put subsidies on essential commodities. Put subsidies on fertilizer. And stop the dictatorial tendencies. It is draconian. It is primitive. It will never be tolerated in Zambia. And you are not going anywhere. I thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much, Honorable Robert Kapyanga. And indeed, he has reminded us that the UPND government is a PR government. And these were words echoed by Chief Mpezeni when he said that these guys are telling us stories that are of the nature of a village when, before we sleep. Now, the issue of subsidies. Subsidies were removed in order to facilitate corruption. Huge sums of money, unprecedented levels. And in fact, this is grand corruption that we are seeing. In fact, Honorable Kapyanga, these people, not only are they politically impotent, but they are also, as you have indicated, politically deaf. So many, and because some of the ideas, and we appreciate your presence, that you've been here listening to some of these ideas. A clever government would have picked the ideas that are spoken, because we are aware that through their channels they do follow whatever is spoken here. But before I call upon the next speaker, let me just also recognize the presence of the Deputy Secretary General, Madam Brenda Nyirenda, who's also MP for Lundazi, and also my colleague, Honorable Fabiuma Kalogo, who have just joined us. Now, we'll move on to Senior Counsel, a former LAS President, a statesman, and one of the big legal brains in this country. This is the chairman of the PF legal team, and indeed, I don't want to preempt, after 2026, but I'll leave it as it is. Honorable George Sanya,
don't frighten me.
Address the nation.
Don't frighten me. Thank you very much, moderator. I'm so grateful. And thank you very much, our fourth estate, for being with us. Allow me, as I start to address you, to also just ride on the protocols that have already been established, but to single out the Deputy Secretary General for being with us, of choosing to be with us at this quite momentous occasion. We know how busy the office of the SG is. That you're able to find time to be with us, Madam SG, is heartwarming. You're very welcome. So a story is told about two aged men that coincidentally found themselves at different sides of the bank in Zanaco. One, we are told, went to borrow money, and the other went to deposit some money. And an exchange that took place between these two resulted in a scuffle. One of them, who had gone to borrow money from the bank, was intent on throwing tirades at the 60th Republican president, and said to the hearing of everybody in the bank that he wanted to be saved very quickly so that he can go and rest and watch while Edgar Lungu is being disqualified by the Constitutional Court. The other guy, who thought they were just throwing jokes around, tells him, "I'm surprised that you, who wants Edgar Lungu to be disqualified, you are actually broke and have come to this bank to borrow money when I've come here to deposit some money." And the scuffle arose. They went into a full barrage of punches within the banking hall. Frankly, I wish I was telling that story at a beer hall somewhere, cracking it as a joke. But unfortunately, this story is a telling story of where things are in the nation because of how we've chosen to carelessly handle issues concerning the affairs of the nation, the affairs of the Constitution. You can imagine a banking hall is a place where you least expect people to start throwing punches at each other. But people don't even respect the environment they find themselves in, because if you belong to two or to different divides of where the country is right now, you can do almost anything and anywhere. Why this background story? I think it is because we are now at a stage where we are teetering at a brink of a constitutional breakdown as a nation. Why? Because we have decided that we can turn the Constitutional Court into a place where we can take our political mingalato, or gerrymanderism, as they call it in the American politics. We are handling the case of the eligibility of the 60th Republican president for a record 5th time. Somewhere, somehow, certain people believe that there cannot be finality to this case. Today, I want to address the nation on the drama surrounding what is going on in the Constitutional Court ahead of the 10th of December, when the Constitutional Court has set itself as a date to deliver a judgment on whether President Edgar Lungu, the 60th Republican president, was eligible or is eligible to contest elections in this country. The surrounding circumstances have raised so much heat that we now need to treat very carefully as a nation. The concern has particularly gotten to the cracks when there's now been a very strange announcement that the media is going to be allowed to broadcast live the delivery of this judgment by the Constitutional Court. One then needs to ask immediately, what motivated this decision? And also, most importantly, what motivated this case to come back to court in the circumstances that it found itself back in court? I will just highlight very briefly what I think are points of concern that I would like the nation to be very wary of, to be very aware of as we head towards the 10th of December to go and hear this case. Of course, you are aware that this case has gone back to court at the instigation of Mr. Chizombe, who, despite the court 4 times having pronounced itself that President Edgar Lungu was eligible to contest these elections, he decided to reopen this case again. There's a slight background to the reopening of this case, which I call very strange coincidences. The first coincidence is that so soon after being elected president, 7th Republican president, President Hakainde Hichilema decided to appoint members to the Judicial Complaints Commission. And at the time of appointing those members, they were not subjected to critical scrutiny. He picked members of the UPND. I learned later that one of the 2 that were appointed was actually a district chairperson for UPND in Indora. And they were appointed and they were taken to the Judicial Complaints Commission. Their first assignment was to single out 3 judges of the Constitutional Court and recommend for their removal. The nation was shocked. The nation raised issue about the appropriateness of this move. But this government, including the president, were undeterred. They were resolved to remove these 3 judges. The grounds upon which they were removed were as strange as anybody can wish to imagine. The skyrocketing speed at which their matters were dealt with at the at the JCC were as shocking as anybody can want to imagine. Even when their lawyers were raising preliminary issues, even when lawyers were challenging the decision of the JCC to reopen a case, those things were being shoved by the side because a resolve had been made to have them removed as judges of the Constitutional Court. In fact, if you noticed, there was even one time when the JCC issued a notice of hearing in the newspaper, even when these individuals were represented by lawyers, to say tomorrow we'll be hearing this matter and we'll make a determination. And shortly thereafter, this is also preceded by a decision to recommend for their removal. Now, Zambians may have forgotten that the case of these three judges had gone to the Judicial Complaints Commission a record 6 times. And the Judicial Complaints Commission had not found these judges wanting, on the simple reason that you cannot penalize a judge for the mistake or a wrong that they may have made while sitting hearing the matter and delivering a judgment. That was the position. But they went back with this case, and they recommended that these judges be suspended, and the president swiftly suspended these judges. If I'm not mistaken, the suspension must have taken place either on a Saturday or a Sunday. And very quickly, these judges were removed. Another coincidence is the appointment of the other judges to sit in the Constitutional Court, some of which appointments were very controversial, because in the ratifying process, people identified that one particular judge amongst those who were being appointed did not qualify to be appointed as Constitutional Court judge, let alone Vice President of the Constitutional Court. The appointing authority was undeterred, went ahead and made the appointment, and of course with the numbers in Parliament, we got a ratification of this individual. The third coincidence was the reconstitution of the panel that was going to sit to hear this matter. The panel then included these new 3 judges, and of course the other 3 judges had been removed. And one of the remaining judges on the panel was not included in the panel that is going to hear this matter, and they called this matter to be heard. So these coincidences create a semblance of a miscarriage of justice in my assessment, that you can have a case of this nature return to court and exclude from the panel those who had sat to hear this matter and made a determination 4 times, and you think that you can have justice in that case. When this matter came up in court, the lawyers for Dr. Edgar Lungu raised 2 very important preliminary issues. The first one was that this matter, the court was functus officio. For those who don't understand legal terms, it meant the court had made a decision on this matter and retired. Courts, when they make a final decision, they become functus officio. You can't bring that case before the same court unless under very special and compelling circumstances. And the lawyers for the Patriotic Front, or for President Edgar Lungu, raised this issue on the understanding that previously, when the court was making this matter a judgment rather for the 4th time, it even advised the nation and said, we are tired as a constitutional court. Please just don't wake up any time and say, we're going to bring this matter back again in court, because there must be finality to litigation. So that it emboldened the lawyers for President Edgar Lungu to raise the issue that this court was functus officio. And secondly, that the matter was res judicata. Res judicata is a legal principle that says the court has determined this matter with finality. There is no need for this court to reopen this case again. These 2 were very important preliminary issues on which the court should have pronounced, a finding that it is true indeed. We have raised this matter, we have determined this matter before, we are functus officio, and the case itself is res judicata because we made a determination of this matter. Unfortunately, that was not considered by the court. Against its own previous guidance to the public, where they said, please don't bring this case back to court, they decided they're going to hear this case. According to them, they felt that maybe some new evidence must have arisen, which they will need to consider. Now, under jurisprudence, courts are not allowed to return the same case for determination again, unless we have what are called special and compelling circumstances that demand that the courts must rehear the case. And if peradventure the court decides to rehear the case, another point of compliance is that the very judges who sat to hear the case must be given the opportunity to hear the case again. Here we are sitting with a court that has been truncated, that has been punctured by removing the judges, the 3 judges who had heard the matter, and appointing a second set of judges to come and hear the fresh matter. That is moving away from the principles of jurisprudence, because then you tilt the court itself. You actually tilt the court in favor of one of the litigants. The issue of finality is an issue that must have prevented this court to hear this matter afresh. But in their judgment, they think that they should reopen this case, and they've reopened it, and they're hearing it, like I said, with a different panel. This raises matters of concern that the public must pay critical attention to, because it is very unusual that you can have a constitutional matter heard in these very, very critical or controversial circumstances. The issue of admitting cameras in court, others have lauded it, saying that it is a very fair thing for the Chief Justice to do. Others have condemned it, saying that this is going to doubt the quality of justice that is going to come from, from the Constitutional Court. If you try and compare the two sides, you would definitely agree that those who are criticizing this decision are in the right. What has motivated the judiciary now to accept that you can allow cameras into court at the tail end of the case? The appropriate time would have been the time that this matter, when the arguments in this case were being advanced, because the public has got the right to listen and appreciate the two sides of the divide. They must have been given the opportunity to hear what those who are petitioning President Edgar Lungu were saying in court, to hear what those who were opposing the petitioning of President Lungu had to say in court. But the arguments have been closed, the submissions have been made, and all the court is supposed to now do is to come and read the judgment. The timing is so controversial, is so suspicious, that it raises concerns of whether we really are toiling with justice or we are toiling with constitutional democracy in the nation. I think if the Chief Justice is listening to me, and is a man that I respect very much, I've been mentored by this Chief Justice from the time I was a school guy at University of Zambia, and even when I went into practice. I've interacted with this Chief Justice for many, many times. If he's hearing me and is hearing the views of others who have raised concern about this decision, he must vacate that decision to allow cameras into the Constitutional Court at the time when the Constitutional Court is supposed to be delivering judgment. It will be unfair to the litigants, and I don't mean to only President Edgar Lungu's side. It will be unfair also to the state, depending on the judgment that's going to come from court. The appropriate time for cameras to have been allowed to go into the court would have been at the time when these arguments were being advanced. Because mind you, this is not only a case about two litigants. This is the case about the sovereignty of the Republic of Zambia itself. Because you are about to question an election that took place under the Constitution. You are about to question an election that delivered President Hakainde Hichilema as the 7th Republican president. Zambians are as interested to hear this case as the litigants themselves are. And in all fairness, you don't allow the public to have a peer or to have just a snippet into the proceedings at the tail end of the proceedings. This is downright injustice, Mr. Chief Justice. And as a member of a practicing profession of law, I make an appeal to you. You can vacate that decision. It is not necessary. I do not even think that this was motivated by the judiciary. I don't think so. So we need to be serious with how we're handling the affairs of justice in the nation. And I repeat, Dr. Chief Justice, please consider vacating this decision. Allow the case to end the way it started. Then the people are going to make judgments after reading the judgment themselves. One must then ask, what will be the way forward if this Constitutional Court makes a decision? If this Constitutional Court decides to make a decision and makes its finding that Edgar Chagwa Lungu was not or is not eligible, or was not eligible to contest the 2021 election, and therefore should not, because if you see, the drive is to prevent him from participating in the next election. But we now need to address the immediate intended consequences of a decision of such a nature. If you say he wasn't eligible, it means the presidential election of 2021 was conducted with the participation of somebody who was not eligible to contest that election. That must naturally invalidate the result of the election, because this election delivered a president in a contest that was participated in by somebody who didn't qualify to participate. Therefore, the immediate decision must be that there must be a fresh election with people that are eligible to contest this election. The other intended consequence is that everything that President Hakainde Hichilema has done from 2021 up to now will be rendered invalid and unconstitutional because he was delivered into State House by an election in which there was participation by somebody who was not eligible. Now, this is not to guide what the Constitutional Court must do, but this is just to make Zambians appreciate what should be the intended consequences of these decisions. The Republican president has made so many appointments. He presided over the appointment of the Speaker of the National Assembly. He presided over the appointment of all the Constitutional Court judges and some High Court judges. He has made certain commitments on behalf of the Republic of Zambia in our international relationships. He has even chaired some troika, I think the troika of the SADC. It simply would mean that everything that has happened when he's sitting in the office of president must be invalidated because he was then delivered necessarily by an election that was not compliant with the Constitution. So we need to be alive to these things. I started a story, my discussion rather, with a story of people that met in the bank and clashed. That is a writ large of what is likely to happen if we don't handle this issue delicately. I make an appeal to the judges of a constitutional court to remember their constitutional mandate which they wield, to remember the duty that they owe to the Zambian Republic, because under the Constitution, judicial power, just like executive and legislative power, belongs to the people of the Republic of Zambia. It is a rare privilege for one to be given the appointment of a judge of the Constitutional Court. And once you are constituted as a judge of the Constitutional Court, you become a sovereign. You discharge a sovereign mandate, just like a member of parliament, just like the Speaker of the National Assembly, and just like the Republican president. You are also a sovereign. Please apply yourselves to the duty that you owe to this nation. Consider the levels of accountability that is expected of you as people who have a unique privilege of serving this nation as judges of the Constitutional Court. But most importantly, you are out there to do justice. Justice must not only be done, it must be seen to be done. There is too much controversy surrounding the LGBT case this time around, because there's too much of a political agenda around this. But the courts are trained, they're experienced, and they can extricate themselves from the politics surrounding a case, and they can decide the case based only on the law and the Constitution. And I expect that this time around, we are going to have judges that the nation can be proud of once they deliver a judgment in the LGBT case. Thank you very much for hearing me.
Thank you very much, Senior Counsel, and precisely. Well done. We have had the various irregularities conducted by the UK government. But what is sad, they've even gone to touch the sanctity of the judiciary. And indeed, in addition to all those things, failing economically, failing politically, now going to destroy everything. In short, the UPND only came to destroy this country. The peace and stability that we've enjoyed over the years. Indeed, at this point in time, I also recognize the presence of Chembe MP, Honorable Mpundu, Honorable Mlenga Fuli also is present. At this point in time, I will be calling upon Honorable Brian Mndovile, but after that, I'll call upon Honorable Pavyuma to discuss various issues relating to the resources of this country, particularly mining sector. After that, I will be calling upon a rare daughter of this country, and this is no other than Honorable Brenda Nyirenda, who is also the Deputy Secretary General, to come and wrap up all these issues. And indeed, we have heard from the gurus, starting from Honorable Kafaya, as a financial and economic guru, the issues to do with this economy. We've also had, the legal frame, and also, therefore, having said that, at this stage in time, let me also call upon another rare child of this country. And indeed, when I look at these members of me, I take my point very seriously. I'm seeing a complete government. And I'm sure from the conversation, you'll be able to put one and one together. and realize that we are not just having a press conference, but the future of this country. At this point in time, I call upon the leader of the opposition, another great son of this country, a businessman. I don't want, the list is too long. I would have gone into all the other honorable we call upon.
Thank you, Comrade Tembo. Due to the brevity of time, I will rely on the protocol that is already established, and proceed to look at some of the issues that were raised by my colleagues. I think one of the issues that Honorable Kafwaya spoke to, he was asking the UPND to slow down on corruption and start working. Honorable Kapianga also made a similar call. Now, you countrymen and women, you need to understand the background to this. The elephant in the room is the high cost of living. It doesn't matter how many times the vice president will duck that question. The fact remains, and the fact is that Zambians are suffering. Muri ubuchushi muchalo, abantu balefwa n'ensala. Ifwe mpamonge ntungulushi, ishosha salwa ku bantu. Natwima apasweka, n'okumuno okutolandila kwa bantu. Tapali umulimo na ngumo tuinga bomba, nga tatulelanda pakulila kwa bantu. Efira mwachimona, ba mutotoka fwapo bekere, balirira kwa bantu bulanda. Bakapianga baisa balirira kwa bantu bulanda. Mu parliament nga mwachila mfwa. The elephant in the room is the high cost of living. What is saddening is that this topic is always downplayed when it's brought on the floor of the House. Sometimes even presiding officers would like to downplay this particular aspect. Many of us are village MPs. Tulefuwa mumishi emu abantu bale chula tabakwete emiti mfipatala tabakwete fyakulya bale yakana fertilizer mu mameda, and they keep phoning us. Ukomwaya ku parliament ife fyonsereke nikulanda po landeni pabuchushi wa abantu. So we are carrying out the instructions and directives that have been given. Previously, whenever somebody talked about subsidies, people found it strange. No subsidies in the world over. But we have to face reality. If the mines worth billions of dollars are given concessions are ideally subsidies. These are the same mines that enjoy concessions and subsidies, and we are later told that they don't even pay taxes. Today, we are reading about some mining gurus, facing criminal offenses because of tax evasion in other countries. In countries that are serious, some of these people that are coming here in this country and walking away with our wealth are being pursued because of evading tax. So as we sit here, I want to let you know that from the time the UPND assumed government, we have approved budgets of over 500 billion kwacha. It was 172 billion at first, 167 billion, and I think 177. That's way over 500 billion kwacha. The question is, what have they done with this money in these 3 years? What have we seen as a people? Governments are there to serve and look out for the most vulnerable in society. If 500 billion kwacha has been spent over the past 3 years, and yet the people are going hungry, they're still getting fertilizers in medals. You must ask government, because we're coming to the end of the year. How is government helping the poorest of the poor? Because the vice president will continue ducking and avoiding this question on the floor of the House. What is even more disappointing, coming from her Honor the Vice President, is when she said, we have done wonderful things. She caught the attention of many members of parliament when she said the UPND government has done wonderful things. I Googled the meaning of wonderful because I thought maybe she had a different meaning. It means inspiring, extremely good, and marvelous. So then I'm asking myself, what is it that the UPND have done that is marvelous or inspiring? Abantu wale from Cancer Hospital, Honorable Bino Mpundu raised that issue on the floor of the House. If indeed they have done wonderful things, why is it that we are failing to invest in equipment per Cancer Hospital? Abantu abalanda are being referred to the UTH, and the people referring them to the UTH now there's no help they're going to get. People are coming here and they're dying every day. This government that has done wonderful things is not buying equipment for the Cancer Hospital. You are telling me, countrymen and women in Kutila, 71 containers are amuti, where along a garage. Umuti, wawika paka subam paka waonaika. Are those wonderful things? Can the Vice President honestly say they've done wonderful things? Mwashto muti ku Egypt under very suspicious circumstances, flawed contracts, procurement procedures. Umuti waisa mwaukanika paka subama container. Wapia mpaka fyaonaika fyakuposa fe at we've done wonderful things. We told this government that, one, looking at the meteorological reports, it's very clear that for the next few years, the rain pattern in some parts of the country will not be as good. Why don't you change your way of doing things and allocate more farming inputs to the farmers in the northern part of the country, so that ultimately we plan to produce more than 3 million tons? Now, because of one, corruption, two, being political in everything that they do, they continue to give farmers in the northern part of the country, where the rainfall pattern is normal as I speak to you now. People, abantu kule walepuka fertilizer mumameda, wale sende la fertilizer mutukopo, ekuli mfula, ile local I'm speaking to you now. It's been raining since September, and yet the Minister of Agriculture, for some reason, he does not want to support the farmers in that part of the country. And yet, a good yield from that part of the country will feed the rest of the country. They would prefer to go and buy maize expensively just across the border, away from Nakonde, Baingila, Tanzania, and pay double the price. Yet, they could have given inputs to northern Muchinga, Luapula, and part of Eastern Province and Central, so that they produce for the rest of the country. And they say they're methodical, they're meticulous in the way they do things. Yes, we agree with you. When it comes to corruption and wrongdoing, you're very methodical. Comrade Chisanga was just telling us about how district chairmen of UPND are now sitting at JCC so that they could fire judges, intimidate judges, and allow for the eligibility case. In that regard, yes, you're methodical, but not when it comes to economic sectors. The PF demonstrated in the agricultural sector, year in, year out, we're increasing. We found the maize yield were about 2.8 million tons under MMD. We took it up to about 3.6 million tons. From the time the UPND came into power, they've never gone above 2.5 million tons. We are about 1.5 million tons today. That is the reason why we have got hunger in the country. And yet, they can't learn. Look at their own meteorological reports. Their own experts are saying, and we are saying to them, politics. Forget about it. It's about food production. So today we are in those problems. It's very, very unfortunate indeed, because the Vice President made a statement that the UPND government has done wonderful things. The youths today are crying. The youths are crying because they were given fuel tankers. Given fuel tankers. The money from fuel tankers is going to the UPND and they're using it in by-elections. A few officials within the UPND are sharing that money. I want you, the media, to go after all those cooperatives. The youth cooperatives that got tankers from government, both under PF and UPND, and see what is happening to them. What Comrade Sanga will call highway robbery is what is happening. These are tankers that were bought with government money, given to youth cooperatives, and the beneficiaries are a few individuals in the EPND. And because corruption in this government is endemic, there is no one to fear. There are no controls. People are just watching. And the Vice President says they're doing something wonderful. Is getting money from fuel tankers meant for you a wonderful thing to do? You still say you're doing something wonderful? Patients dying every day and they're saying you're doing a wonderful thing? Civil servants victimized just because of the names that they carry. Those civil servants did not choose to be born with those names. They did not choose. So I want to challenge those of you that are here. Go and get the list of those 500 names that are sitting at Cabinet Office and begin to see the golden thread in the names that you're going to find on that list. And the Vice President is saying they are doing wonderful things by sending those 500 civil servants at Cabinet Office. It's very sad indeed. Remember that we're coming to the close of the year, and the Vice President was submitting a report to wrap up the year. She believes that they've done wonderful things. So we are indeed very, very concerned. The FIC report, we've been talking about it every day, the 13 billion, the 64 billion. The Vice President still believes that exporting money, 64 billion, 13 billion, 5 are wonderful things. The UPND has done wonderful things by sending money stolen from within the country, and those few individuals that are privileged are sending that money out of this country. I must remind Her Honor the Vice President that your Minister of Finance found a case of a mining house that had stolen $2.5 billion, the money that we need. The case was at the police. Those directors were once arrested and detained, but Minister of Finance withdrew that case, and it's quiet. Who has shared into this money? We want to know. Is this what the Vice President meant? That they've done wonderful things? Going after these criminals that got this money, enticing them, withdrawing the case and going behind to go and collect part of this money, and they are saying you've done wonderful things? And you think Zambians are going to forget about this $2.5 billion? Your Honor the Vice President, if this is what you call wonderful things, I must inform you that we will not bury this story. Whoever participated in the sharing of this $2.5 billion will one day have to answer the questions. The $1 billion meant for ZRA, where the mining house was later instructed to only pay $23 million, is not a story we are ready to forget about. This money can go a long way towards buying medicines, equipment for the cancer hospital, and many other places. So I wish to disagree with the Vice President that there is nothing wonderful that the UPND government has done at all. Because inflation is very high, even as we speak now. Prices of fertilizers, fuel, meal are very high. What is it that she meant that they've done wonderful things? Where is the 500 billion kwacha that we have spent through the budgets in the past 3 years for her to say they've done wonderful things? So Your Honor the Vice President, we want to call upon you and your government to focus on improving the economy. Now, as I wind up, I just want to help this UPND government. I know that they are focused on corruption, thefts, and simply not care about the poor. So if at all you needed to get some advice from us, I'll give you a few pointers where you can recover and begin to do things for the people of Zambia. If you look at, for instance, Honorable Kalowo, he came up with very interesting amendments, towards the new law. What are they calling it? Is it Mines Mineral Regulation Commission bill? The idea of his amendments were that we try to protect some local content, get some percentage reserved for locals. We are seeing code box, that tanker, this. And you see the Zambians are celebrating. You must ask yourselves a simple question at the end of the day. The code box has gone through our roads, it has arrived. So what? Then what? Where is the benefit for the Zambian people? What we would want is that if we have got a certain percentage protected for Zambians, that code box maybe should have been supplied by a Mr. Kabwe, maybe in somewhere. Okay, then we can celebrate because he will have some money out of it. If he didn't supply it, maybe transported it. There must be some guaranteed business for Zambians. We must wonder why Ministry of Mines and the EPND government is resisting to put in some local content in the law where we guarantee some business for the locals. We give them concessions. We give them tax breaks, but we are also very rare about pinning them down to give us a guaranteed business. It's not enough to just provide employment. The real business, the billions of dollars, are in supplying services, goods and services to the mine. If the Zambians tap into that, then we are rest assured that we get a benefit. My dear brother here, Honorable Kalowo, has been pushing that agenda, and it's being resisted on the floor of the House. Which responsible government would want to resist an inclusion in the law that the mines that are mining that particular country should guarantee some minimum business to the locals? Why are they resisting? You must wonder why. Why don't they want it to be provided for, within the law? So, Ministry of Small and Medium Enterprises, if Honorable Pavuma was supported, the empowerment funds that you are giving to your youths, because now we are providing alternative policy, you must do what is called backward and forward integration, so that the business, you give them money, you give them loans, but also secure some businesses for them at the mines. So SME is supposed to have been supporting Honorable Pavuma. That's the only way that you are guaranteed the loans the youths are getting from CDF and from CEC. They will be able to pay back because they've got business. We also want to tell you that even the farmers that are getting these loans through the funds that have been provided, government has to do more to provide market linkages for them. Further, the tankers that have already been linked to oil marketing companies, please ensure that the cooperatives benefit from these tankers. The issue we're trying to address now, or help government with, the cost of living. So these are some of the areas that government must immediately look into. The oil marketing companies and these tankers that were given to the youths, can the youths begin to benefit so they can help their families? The farmers should be linked to markets so that the loans that are getting, they are able to sell whatever they're producing. And of course, the contractors and suppliers linked to the mine. But first and foremost, please consider the amendments that were moved by Honorable Pavuma so that there can be some guaranteed business in those mines. Minister of Agriculture and Mr. President, please immediately get into Luapula and begin to operationalize the Luena farming block in Luapula. Honorable Chilangwa, with the blueprint, should not have been persecuted in the way that is being persecuted now for political reasons. He is a man that sat in Luapula and has a blueprint and the roadmap how we can get to Luapula, as an economic hub. Be courageous, do the right thing, give Chilangwa his freedom so that he shows your minister how and what to do with Luena farming block in Luapula. Kalunguishi farming block is 200,000 hectares in northern province. Mr. President, if we are going to fight the hunger situation, let's not depend on a begging bowl year in, year out. There is arable land drained by 3 rivers in northern province. Go to Kalunguishi farming block and be able to set up an anchor farm so that we can begin to farm at the commercial level. So further, increase the input allocation to these areas where it's raining so that we can be self-sufficient and not rely on other countries to give us food. Further, please increase your budget support to research and development, because agriculture goes with research. Even as we are going through these droughts, yourself, Mr. President, you once talked about Dubai and how it hasn't rained for so many years, and yet they've been able to get around. It's because of research. So government must get on and ensure that they spend some money on research. And further, please create what are called agriculture parks. Agriculture parks will involve the actual farming and indeed value addition. It's a modern way of doing things now. It's a modern way of creating employment. In most of those farming blocks that we are talking about, if you create agricultural parks, you should be able to not only farm and produce food, but also be able to introduce industries and factories for value addition, thereby creating employment. Go to Northern Province, Mr. President, look at Port and Harbour for increased trade between Zambia and Eastern Africa. You can look at improving and modernizing the Mpulungu Harbour. These are plans that we left that you can pick on, so that ultimately people in those areas, the current cost of living can only be brought down through practical measures. And these are some of the measures that we are putting up. And I think finally we look at the energy sector. We know that the southern part of the country, where most of the energy installations are, is the driest part of the country. There was a project Comrade Dixon Chilangwa left for about 1,200 megawatts power generation along the Luapula River. Let somebody gather the courage and find Comrade Chilangwa and ask them so that they can give you some ideas on how that particular project can be taken to another level, thereby allowing the country to become the net exporter of power. Mporokoso and Kawambwa has 240 megawatts power generation capacity, and that capacity is ready. 3 years down the line, Mr. President and Energy Minister, nothing has been done. The time we were leaving power, negotiations were done, and we were actually at the tail end of those negotiations. We expect this to be actualized. I was just advancing a point that was earlier raised by Comrade Kafwaya and Comrade Kapianga, where they said, UPND government, please slow down on corruption and start working. That is why we are giving you these ideas, that in case you have preferred your mode of operation because you have no ideas, we can give you something to start working on immediately as you slow down on your corruption. With those few remarks, comrades, I wish to thank you.
No, I can't thank you more, Honorable Ndolile. Ladies and gentlemen, I did mention to you that what you are seeing here is a government in waiting. And clear, Honorable and Comrade Ndolile demonstrated that. To that effect, he has given proposals on how we can have some interventions. But like I said, the UPND not only is a politically impotent government, but it's also, a government which has a year before it exits. Clearly, the Vice President of this country, at the beginning of their term, did mention that the prices of goods must go up so that they start coming down. Now we are in the 4th year. The prices are even skyrocketing. Now, they are going up. I think it's them now who go down. Because the prices of goods have continued going up. So the UPND will start going down. Indeed, once again, I just want to pay tribute to all the speakers for the very, very important issues they've brought out. And I want to emphasize that myself, I'm seeing a government in waiting. And let me just call upon, I will not say much about Honorable Pavuma, but from what he's going to present, you will have an idea of how rare the resources that are embedded in the PF. These are the resources which the UPND would have been listening and picking up and learning from. And they are like people swimming in fresh water and crying, I'm thirsty, whilst they're swimming and drowning in fresh water. I thank you. Honorable Pavuma, talk to the nation as they want from you. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Moderator. And let me recognize our senior leaders in the party, starting with the leader of opposition, the Chief Whip, fellow honorable members of Parliament, you, the media present here. I want to share with you the process that is currently ongoing, the amendment of the Mines and Mineral Development Act, number 11 of 2015. Dear colleagues in the media, I want to share with you that we in the PF, we support that amendment. Why? Because it has presented an opportunity for Zambia to deal with historical challenges of exploration and beneficiation. That's why we support that aspect. Also, when you check why they are amending, they are telling us that it's because of the purpose of good governance, beneficiation, and citizen participation, which is very progressive. We do support that fact. But now, you may ask yourselves a question, that if we support the intention and the agenda that they are trying to advance, the reasons they've put forward, you may ask a question, why is the controversy? Because I'm sure you have observed that we've been pulling each other on the amendment of that document. Why the controversy? Because after looking at how it was sugar-coated and the opportunity it presented, we were too happy and we supported. Controversy arose when we had put the two documents now that are before Parliament under mental microscopic scrutinization. We discovered that the elements that will advance beneficiation, the elements that will advance citizen participation, the elements that will address shareholding have been sabotaged right away from the proposal of the same law. That is where you saw now controversy. Because as we are not mad people, and that law was not enacted by us here, but our duty in Parliament is to correct, maybe to improve. Maybe at that particular time when they were enacting, things were different. I want to share with you that our economy largely is dependent on copper. And more than 70% of our export earnings, they are coming from mining. Before privatization, we had control and ownership. All our development was being funded using local resources. When they had issues during that time, they thought of privatizing. And what they wanted to achieve after privatization was, number one, to secure employment, tap in the private capital, skills transfer, technology transfer. These were part of the issues, key issues that they wanted to achieve. We only achieved tapping in the private capital. No technology transfer, meaningful technology transfer, no meaningful skills transfer. We never secured employment. Examples are clear. And I've been giving these examples, I think, several. Before privatization, employment at KCM stood at 22,000. After privatization, at the time they were closing KCM, it was as 4,600. You call that securing employment? No. So, coming to the bills before Parliament, we have two bills: the Mineral Regulation Commission and the Geological. Two bills. The issue is not having too many laws in mining sector. The issue is how Zambia is going to benefit from its mineral wealth. That is the issue. And the answer does not lie in acting fragmented laws. No. We may talk politics, but leader of opposition, maybe what would help maybe is to give alternatives.
That's right.
So that maybe we are not seen just talking like we are not talk show. There's no talk show here. We are providing alternatives to the government because it's part of our role. So what they should have done, what we expected, this law to address beneficiation, And many times you've seen President talking about citizen participation in mining sector. How is it going to come? Minus listing ZCCMIH after it acquires 40% and above shares in all mining companies and list it on the Osaka Stock Exchange so that citizens could buy shares so that each time dividends are declared. Nipama phone fem pam 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 tuma message to walilenda la mashakita shangira. Failure to that, and already we have missed because it's not too late as we are talking. But the route, the way it has gone, yesterday it was on the floor. All the proposals that we made, they've shot them down, but it's not too late because the final document has not been drawn. That's why we are giving advice to the government. Number one, convert ZCMIH from a holding company into a fully-fledged mining company. I had an attempt by the minister saying ZCMIH is not. It is a parastatal. Because where we are coming from is the one which held the major shares on behalf of the country. It was ZCCM Limited. After privatization, when we lost all the shares control, it became a holding company. They are holding below 20% shares. If you wish to know, Mopani was 10%, NFC 15%, Lumwana, Karumbila, and these other mines 20, KCM was 20.6%, which indicates that we lost control because standard practice, 30% is partial control, 40% up is a controlling share. Okay? So after that, it was converted into a holding company, ZCMIH. Even now, it can be converted into a fully fledged mining company. After doing that, raise all the shares from all these mining companies, large-scale mining companies, raise shares to 40% and above so that our voice can matter on the board, so that we can assume control, so that it can advantage us by funding our development using our mineral wealth. After that, list them on the Osaka Stock Exchange so that citizens participate fully by buying shares so that they can benefit once dividends are declared. This time we finish our talking in bank the message if you're in the phone pa then they will be given a trickle down effect because once those ones get phone pampa, they will buy in the tuntemba in the communities. People in the tuntemba, they will be frequenting wholesalers. Those wholesalers, they are taxpayers, they will be paying tax. You see that circle. So we've killed that circle. And once they don't do this, this is what we are losing. We want ZCCMIH to sell its own copper, like the way it is in Congo, so that we mitigate the losses of the resources that we are experiencing through transfer pricing. We need to receipt all the minerals that are mined in this country. Then thereafter, these mining multinationals now can repatriate their share afterwards. Because just allowing those resources to sit in the banks, yes, it's their money, it will reduce pressure on Kwacha. Right now, our Kwacha is carelessly under pressure. Among the other things also they touched, these are alternatives, if you are to correct. These are part of the alternatives. Key. These are very key because the issue is beneficiation. Then we also brought in labor issues. In the Mineral Regulation Commission, they are suggesting that a mining company that has got labor disputes, they will close it. Why close a mine? Suppose they have a labor dispute with one individual. Do you close a mine where there are thousands of people working? What logic is there? And again, on the other hand also, Industrial and Labor Relations Act provides for alternative dispute mechanisms on how social partners should resolve their issues, their labor issues. So why should the Mineral Regulation Commission be pulling with another law? The policies and the laws that should be like they should call for coherence and what do you call the legal term? Consistency. And consistent. There should be consistency. There's no consistency there. The two laws are pulling each other. Okay? Because we have Industrial and Labour Relations Act. They go to, and we have Industrial and Labour Relations Court.
Yes.
We have a court specifically for that. Why are we duplicating the law? Why are we duplicating the law? When we know there's a right of court that will deal with that particular matter. So, for us, these are part of the issues that brought controversy. Also, they are trying to give absolute power to the minister. For example, there is a section 67 there which is talking about Environmental Protection Fund. They are saying, they are trying to establish the commission. But then they say the minister will appoint the Environmental Protection Fund Committee who will manage the fund. How? Our proposal was that the commission should appoint the committee and in consultation with the minister and manage the fund. That's why we are creating the. Again, on the other hand, also, we wanted, very key, we wanted the local content which was removed. Mines and Mineral Development Act had section 20 which was talking about preference for Zambian contractors, services produced here, even employing our local people. They removed that completely. So at the time of deferment, that was the major contention. So now, they are trying to play games. I've shared with you that we have two bills. They've put under the geological bill. The commission is the one which has got power to bite after enacting it. It's the one which will have power to enact any abrogation of the laws that are aligned there. Abrogating the law under the geological law will just mean like abrogating any other law in Zambia, and it may go in court and it can be there years and years. But once it sits under the Mineral Regulation Commission, an investor will know that the license is at risk. So we want the local content to come under the mineral regulation. I can talk the whole day. I'm being told the time is gone. I can even see the media tired. My leaders allow me to end here. I'm sure one or two things have been, I think it will make sense to the people of the Republic and ourselves, our colleagues in the media. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank
Very,
you.
very important.
And
Very, very
ladies and gentlemen, once again, let me just say that I'm sure when I said that we have a government waiting, you did not believe me. But I'm sure you have seen and heard what has been said. We cannot have a government established by the Zambian people pursuing an agenda of the foreigners. This is what was being said. Zambia's core or backbone of the Zambian economy is the mining sector. And we cannot continue allowing foreigners to benefit. At this stage in time, ladies and gentlemen, let me just, by way of introduction, introduce to you a national leader like the rest of us. She has extensive experience in leadership in various fields, in the academia, social leadership, in the NGOs, multinational organization, as well as, in various fields. But more importantly, she's a governance expert. And very, very important to note, Deputy Secretary General of the Patriotic Front. This is no other than Comrade and Honorable Brenda Nyarenda, who's MP for Lundazi, to wrap up and give us a direction and conclude so that, we are expectant of what comes in 2026, even as we form government. I thank you, Madam. Yes.
Thank you very much, Leader of Opposition and fellow members of Parliament, the media. You have come in numbers. This shows that you really have serious confidence in the Patriotic Front leadership. Thank you so much, Honorable Fube here. and the other members who are following, because we haven't yet closed. We are still doing some work. This afternoon, I just want to appreciate all the works which have been put in by the ABLE team, which have been able to speak to our people out there in Zambia. And what you need to understand as Zambia is that we are your mouthpiece. When we gather like this to speak to the media, we are simply venting out some of the major challenges which you, the Zambian people, are facing today. You see, when I sit down to read sometimes, there was something that caught my attention 2 days ago. They said by the time the UPND government leaves in 2026, every one of us should be given a certificate of survival. That is what I read. And you see, it was repeated and forwarded many times. And for sure, we really need not even a certificate. I think we need to get a master's degree in survival skills. We really need to know how to survive during this time. It is very difficult to survive, especially when the rule of law has been thrown out there. Today, we have GBM in prison, we have Chilangwa in prison, we have Chitotela in prison, we have Bowman Nusambo in prison. Every opposition member of parliament is going to the courts. At the end of 2026, we need to get actually a PhD in survival. But what is good is that the Zambian people are so intelligent, they can be able to read, they can be able to tell what is black, and they can be able to tell what is white. And my encouragement to you fellow Zambians out there who are suffering and you are waiting to get your survival paper is that clean up your NRC. Ensure that every morning you are seeing it. Ensure that you have registered to vote. This time, even the best is to move in families. You must ensure you take your great-grandmother, you take your grandmother, you take your mother, your children, you go and vote out the UPND. Let me talk about some of the issues. You see, one of the ministers was fooling me when I was coming out of the house. You know what he told me? He said, the memory of Zambians is very small. So even if you talk to them as many times, they can only remember things for 14 days. I looked at him and I told him to say, your time is up. If you think Zambians' memory, they have a short memory. They can only keep something for 14 days. After that, it is deleted in their memory. What I would want to state is that while the memory is fallible, we as a Patriotic Front leaders will make sure that our people are reminded of some of the evil. I sit here this afternoon together with fellow members of parliament to remind you, our fellow Zambians, that there is serious high teenage pregnancy in Zambia prevailing today. And one of the major challenges which has caused teenage pregnancy to go very high is the levels of poverty. There is serious poverty in our country. In rural areas, it is very high. There are very few people who are happy and enjoying and are laughing at us, and they are saying your memory can only store things for about 14 days. Just yesterday, they had to withdraw the cyber bill because they know that we have been flashing back to them. You told the Zambian people that millimil is going to be 50 kwacha. Where is it today? You told the Zambian people that diesel is going to go as low as 10 kwacha. Where is it today? You told the Zambian people that the Patriotic Front has failed to give you cheaper millimil. At what price are you buying the millimil today? So even if we can forget some of the evil which you have done to us, we cannot forget that we were buying millimil at 100 kwacha. And today, we are buying the same millimil at 400 kwacha. Hunger is everywhere. it is actually part of the chorus that we are singing every day. If I go into my constituency, the only thing they are telling me, honorable, hunger. They're not even looking at anything else. They just want to see how tomorrow is going to come out. The Zambians in the rural areas cannot forget that out of the abundance of His Excellency Edgar Chagwa Lungu, he was able to give them 8 bags of fertilizer. And today, fertilizer is being shared. What I would want to remind the Zambians is that there was Shujilite, which was stolen. You, our partners, you in the media, go to Kabwe today and find out if that container for Shujilite is still there. It has disappeared in thin air. They have sold, they have taken the money, and today it is them who are enjoying, and they are saying Zambians have a short memory. The Egyptians that you saw at the airport, you shall see them no more. That is what was being written. Today, the plane which was used to smuggle your goods, it has disappeared. The people who were involved in the scandal are nowhere to be seen, apart from victimizing one Kasanda, and for sure reasons, just because he supports PF. Zambians, you shouldn't forget, our own children in Kanyama were being feasted to Kachasu. Me, I have a very sharp memory, and I cannot forget that one of the ministers was making children and a mother to drink Kachasu. For me, I haven't forgotten that. On top of that, if you go today along Freedom Way, if you see women who have tied, you know, chitenges around them, and they have something like a hunchback at the back, those are vendors. They are running around, you know, battles with the council all the time. And sometimes you can even feel bad how the council descends upon those women and how those women are throwing their goods around. They are saying, Zambians, we have a very short memory. We cannot remember all that. Apart from that, we should remember that they have incarcerated Chilangwa, a person with a disability, and today they are on their way to Kawambwa to go and force someone else to take over his position. How many members of parliament have been removed from the house forcefully? We had Honorable Malanji. For no reason, through trickery, they have removed him from the house. They removed Boma Nusambo and have even incarcerated him. They removed Chilangwa from parliament and even incarcerated him. They removed Chitotela. All they have is appetite to remain in power. That power, what is it all about? If you look at the employment that is taking place today, you know what they are saying? We are going to use the old database. Once a government starts behaving like that, you as citizens should become suspicious. They are saying for, you know, health workers, we are not going to advertise. We are just going to use the old database, which is already there. What about people who have graduated today? It should be a lottery. Anyone can be able to get a chance to get a job. But they are saying, no, we are just going to use the database for those who are already there. That kind of employing of people stinks corruption. For teachers, they are saying, no, we already have a database. So it means that the database is coming from only the UPND members. We have suffered in Zambia, and thank God the time is coming for us to redeem ourselves. You see, the late Michael Sata used to say, if you do not do the correct things, this suffering that we are talking about is going to continue. You see, this is a government leader of opposition, which is going to pass just like Umunsori. You know what they say? It will just pass and there will be nothing to look at. Munsori. Yes. Kulira fyo Munsori, walira waya, neko wafuma, tatuishi beneko lea. We don't know. You see, this is what they are going to leave. The Patriotic Front left you infrastructure. the Patriotic Front left stocks of maize, and the Patriotic Front never removed any opposition member of parliament from their house. They never did that. And you see, at the end of the day, employment during the Patriotic Front, I know the nurses and doctors, it was open there at Ministry of Health. Anyone would just walk in and drop their application, and then after a week they would get. But these people, this is a portion that we may need to delete because there will be nothing to remember them for. What is going to be remembered of the UPND is the hunger, the unforgiveness, the bitterness, the anger, the strife. All those things are going to be remembered by our people, and surely 2021 to 2026 will definitely be able to get our master's degree at the end of the day. But what I would want to say is that Zambians, thank you so much for standing with the people, and thank you so much for being strong. Just remain a bit resistant. 2026, we are going to have a leader who is going to unite you as Zambians. Just be on the watch. Look at what these people are doing. And if you give them another mandate, because us, as members of the Patriotic Front, you have now weighed, you have seen who was the evil one and who was better. If it is the youths now, you have seen, your ambition has taken you where they even want, when you forward a message, you should be arrested. So for me, as a mother of the country, and also as a mother coming from Eastern Province, what I just want to say is that we cannot have a country where the Hot Azama pipeline is just being handled by a Mr. Patel. And at the end of the day, you have seen the price of diesel, you have seen the price of petrol, all those things, they are subjecting our people to abject poverty. The only signature that they are living in this nation is hunger. The signature that they have left in this nation is bitterness. The only signature that they are living in this country is total unforgiveness, and surely we will remember them. But what we want to tell them is that us, 2026, when we take over power, is that we are not going to be vengeful. We are going to embrace them. We are going to show them forgiveness, and we are going to show them love. What I would want to say is, honorable members of parliament, thank you so much for your time. You have really spoken to the hearts of the people. As we go back to the constituencies, let us work hard. We have a duty to play to our Zambian people. Let us gather information and be able to bring it. Or we can say, this Christmas which is coming, we cannot say Happy Christmas. Let us suffer together as we endure to get our master's degree in suffering at the end of 2025. But 2026 is surely going to be a greater year, because all of us now, we are late and we know what to expect. God bless you all. We love you, Mother Zambia, and we know that Zambia is destined for greatness. Thank you so much.
Thank you indeed. Indeed, ladies and gentlemen, we come to a close.
What else can I say?
Press conference. What the DSP was saying, when you see UPND, you see hunger. When you hear UPND, you hear hunger. So this is about hunger. Zambians have never been subjected to this kind of level. And indeed, I want to thank you once again. You are our regular partners. God bless you. And I also thank you, all the speakers.
Thank you. And Merry Christmas in advance, you media.